First contact gone wrong. The universe had rules. Unspoken agreements between spacefaring civilizations that kept the fragile peace across the stars. One of those rules, perhaps the most sacred, was that diplomatic vessels were untouchable. Ships carrying ambassadors, peace envoys, and representatives were protected by a code older than most interstellar nations. They flew with special markings, distinctive energy signatures, and carried minimal defensive capabilities as a sign of trust. Until the day the Phyrexian hegemony broke that trust. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the Earth Coalition vessel Concordia, her face illuminated by the holographic display, showing the scattered debris field where the olive branch had been just hours before. The diplomatic vessel had carried Earth's finest negotiators and cultural attaches, 23 humans whose only mission had been to establish first official contact with the Phyrexians after years of cautious long-range communications. "Replay the final transmission," Reyes ordered, her voice steadied despite the rage building within her chest. The AI complied. A hologram flickered to life, showing Ambassador Chen's face, composed even as warning klaxons blared in the background. "This is Ambassador David Chen of Earth Coalition vessel Olive Branch. We are a diplomatic mission on approach to Phyrexian space as agreed. Our weapons systems are powered down. His eyes widened slightly as the ship rocked. We are being scanned with targeting systems. This is a violation of protocol. We repeat, we are a diplomatic." A flash of light, then nothing. Static filled the bridge. "That's the third time you've watched it, Commander," said Lieutenant Keller from the tactical station. "And I'll watch it 100 more if necessary," Reyes replied, eyes never leaving the screen. "I want to understand why a civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel would be foolish enough to fire on a peace envoy." Admiral Zhang's hologram appeared on the command deck, his weathered face grim. "The heads of all 6 Earth Coalition fleets have been recalled for an emergency council. Commander Reyes, your Concordia was closest to the incident. Report." "Sir, the Olive Branch was destroyed with all hands approximately 14 hours ago. They followed every protocol. Their transponders were broadcasting the diplomatic codes. Their weapons were powered down. The Phyrexians fired without warning or provocation. Could it have been pirates? Rogue elements?" asked Admiral Okafor from her station orbiting Mars. "Negative," Reyes replied. "The energy signature matches Phyrexian military vessels, and we detected a brief transmission burst from their fleet to their homeworld before they opened fire." Silence fell across the neural link connecting Earth's military leadership. "They knew exactly who they were firing on," Zhang said finally. "This wasn't a mistake." President Alvarez joined the call, her usually warm features hardened into something unrecognizable. She had personally selected half the delegation members. She'd known their families. "I've consulted with the Coalition Council," Alvarez said. The vote was unanimous. No one spoke. They all knew what that meant. Activate War Protocol Sierra. All civilian vessels are to withdraw from border regions, recall the exploration fleets, and deploy the 7th, 3rd, and 1st Fleets to the Phyrexian border. The President's voice was steel wrapped in ice. "They fired on our peace envoy. Earth will respond in kind." Throughout human history, Earth had been fractured by divisions, nations, ideologies, religions. But in this moment, humanity stood as one. News of the Olive Branch massacre spread from Earth to Mars, from the Neptune outposts to the mining colonies of the Kuiper Belt. There were no protests, no debates, no factions arguing for restraint. Just silence, resolve, and preparation. Commander Reyes received her orders within the hour. The Concordia, along with its battle group, would form the vanguard of the First Fleet's assault force. Their target, the Phyrexian military outpost at Epsilon Indi, the closest Phyrexian installation to the attack site. As the crew prepared for battle, Reyes retreated to her quarters. On her desk sat a small hologram. The crew of the Olive Branch at their commissioning ceremony. Ambassador Chen stood in the center, his kind eyes and gentle smile belying the brilliant strategic mind that had negotiated peace between Earth's once warring factions. "We'll make this right," she whispered to the image. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, appeared at her door. "Engineering reports the new weapon systems are online. Crew is at battle stations. We're ready to jump on your command." "Any response from the Phyrexians to our ultimatum?" "Nothing, Commander. Complete silence across all channels." Reyes nodded slowly. They had their chance to explain. Across the coalition, shipyards that had been building exploration vessels and science platforms reconfigured for warship production. Defense systems dormant since the Unification War powered up. Veterans who had hoped never to see battle again answered the call, bringing with them the wisdom of experience and the weight of necessity. Humanity had spent generations learning to resolve conflicts peacefully amongst themselves. They had hoped to carry that hard-won wisdom to the stars. But now they were reminded of an older truth. Peace must sometimes be defended with force. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Zhang addressed the assembled fleet. His words were broadcast to every coalition vessel, every outpost, every colony. For 2 centuries, humanity has explored the stars with open hands, not closed fists. We came in peace, extending friendship even to those unlike us. The Phyrexians have mistaken our peaceful nature for weakness. Today, we correct that misunderstanding. The Concordia slipped into formation with 50 other warships, the largest military force humanity had assembled since the Unification War. Nuclear-powered engines glowed blue against the darkness of space. Rail guns and missile pods locked into position. Quantum communication arrays linked targeting systems across vessels separated by thousands of kilometers. "Combat jump in 3 minutes," announced Lieutenant Keller. Reyes moved to the command chair and opened a channel to her crew. "This isn't about revenge, though we all feel that pull. This is about establishing that humanity will not be targeted without consequence. We strike decisively, we strike with purpose, and we strike together." The countdown reached 0. Space twisted around the fleet as the jump drives engage, folding reality to bridge the vast distance to Epsilon Indi. When they emerged, the Phyrexian outpost loomed before them, a massive, ring-shaped station orbiting a barren moon. For one breath, too, there was silence. Then the Phyrexian defense platforms came alive, energy weapons charging. "All ships, combat formation Delta," ordered Reyes. "Target their weapon platforms first, then communication arrays. I want that station intact but defenseless." The human fleet moved with precision born of countless drills. Smaller corvettes darted forward, drawing fire while the heavier destroyers moved into optimal firing positions. The Concordia led a squadron straight for the station's main defense grid. "They're broadcasting," said the communications officer. "Audio only." "Let's hear it," Reyes commanded. A harsh, clicking language filled the bridge, translated in real time by the AI. "Earth vessels, you violate sovereign Phyrexian space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed like the other intruders." Reyes's hands tightened on her chair arms. "Open a channel." The comms officer nodded. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Coalition vessel Concordia. You murdered our diplomats. You fired on a peace envoy. And you call us intruders." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We're not here to talk." She cut the transmission with a gesture and turned to her tactical officer. "All ships, commence firing." The human fleet erupted in coordinated destruction. Rail guns accelerated projectiles to relativistic speeds. Missiles carrying conventional and nuclear payloads streaked toward the station. Laser arrays cut through the smaller Phyrexian defense satellites. The station returned fire, powerful energy beams slicing through space. 3 human corvettes vanished in nuclear fire. A destroyer listed to port, atmosphere venting from a massive breach in its hull. But the outcome was never in doubt. Human military technology, honed through centuries of conflict on Earth, before being turned to peaceful purposes, was devastating in its efficiency. One by one, the station's defense platforms went dark. Its communication arrays shattered under precision strikes. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. The Vrexian station hung in space, crippled but intact, surrounded by the debris of its defenses. Status report, Rise ordered. We've lost 5 ships, Commander. 12 more reporting damage. The Vrexian station is defenseless. Their engines are offline. Life support is functioning on emergency power. Casualties on the station? Minimal. They had a crew of approximately 2,000. Sensors show most compartments still pressurized. Rise nodded slowly. Prepare boarding parties. I want prisoners, and I want answers. As the human forces secured the station, a message arrived from Earth. President Alvarez, flanked by the Coalition Council, addressed the fleet. The attack on Epsilon Indi is only the beginning. 3 more Vrexian outposts have fallen to Coalition forces in the past hour. We have demonstrated that humanity will answer aggression with overwhelming force. Her expression softened slightly. But we have not forgotten who we are. We take no joy in this conflict. Our goal is not extermination, but understanding. The Vrexians must answer for their actions, but we will not descend to their level. The transmission ended, and Rice turned to her second-in-command. Prepare a team. I'm going aboard that station. If the Vrexians won't tell us why they massacred our diplomats, perhaps their computers will. As the boarding shuttles approached the crippled station, Rice stared at the alien structure. Something about this felt wrong. The Vrexians had been cautious in their long-range communications, yes, but never overtly hostile. Why invite a diplomatic mission only to destroy it? What could they possibly gain? The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. Rice checked her sidearm and adjusted her combat armor. Let's find some answers, she said, stepping into the airlock. What she would discover aboard would change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. The Reckoning. The interior of the Vrexian station was eerily silent save for the occasional hiss of failing pressure seals and the heavy footfalls of the human boarding party. Commander Elena Rice led her team through curved corridors, lined with bioluminescent panels that pulsed weakly on emergency power. The architecture was alien, asymmetrical doorways, corridors that branched at odd angles, and control interfaces covered in complex geometric patterns rather than buttons or screens. Life signs, Rice asked, her rifle raised as they approached what intelligence suggested was the command center. Scattered throughout the station, replied Lieutenant Kwan, studying her scanner, but oddly concentrated in the lower levels. Not what you'd expect during a battle. Almost like they wanted to get away from something, muttered Jackson. The command center doors had been sealed, but Coalition cutting tools made quick work of the alien metal. As the doors parted, Rice braced for resistance, but found only a single Vrexian, standing calmly in the center of the room. The alien was taller than a human, with a segmented exoskeleton in muted blues and grays. 4 arms emerged from its thorax, ending in 3-fingered hands. Its head was dominated by compound eyes that reflected the emergency lighting in 1,000 tiny mirrors. I am Station Commander Vextor, the Vrexian said in perfect, unaccented English. I surrender this facility to Earth forces. Rice kept her weapon trained on the alien. You speak our language. We have studied your broadcasts for decades, the Vrexian replied. Just as you have studied ours. Then you understand why we're here. You murdered our diplomats. Why? The alien's mouthparts clicked softly. If I could answer that question simply, Commander Rice, this conflict might be avoided. But the truth is complicated. Uncomplicated, Rice snapped, her patience wearing thin. We did not want to destroy your vessel. We were compelled. The Vrexian's compound eyes shifted, focusing somewhere beyond the human boarding party. There is a third party in this conflict. Convenient excuse, Jackson said. Blame someone else for your actions. Search the lower levels, the Vrexian continued, ignoring the comment. See what we have been hiding, what we have been fighting. Then you will understand why your diplomatic vessel had to be destroyed. Ray signaled to half her team. Secure this level and all prisoners. Jackson, Quan with me. We're going to see what's so important about the lower decks. As they descended through the station, Reyes's unease grew. The Vrexians' calm acceptance of defeat didn't match what they knew about the species. Intelligence reports described them as proud, territorial, and unwilling to show weakness. Something wasn't adding up. The lower levels were different from the upper decks, more heavily armored, with multiple security barriers that had been breached from the inside. The walls bore scorch marks from energy weapons, and in places, the metal was distorted as if corroded by powerful acids. Signs of internal fighting, Quan observed, examining a damaged bulkhead. Recent too. This wasn't battle damage from our assault. Rise agreed, a cold feeling settling in her stomach. They reached a massive set of doors marked with Vrexian warning symbols. Unlike the other barriers, these were intact and locked from the outside with both electronic and physical mechanisms. They were keeping something in, Jackson said quietly. It took their cutting tools nearly 10 minutes to break through. As the doors finally gave way, cold mist poured out, carrying with it an alien scent, metallic and somehow wrong. The chamber beyond was vast, stretching the full width of the station's lower ring, and it was filled with translucent pods, each containing a writhing, shadowy form. Most pods were intact, but some had been broken open, their contents missing. "What the hell are these?" Jackson whispered. Rise approached one of the intact pods, wiping condensation from its surface. Inside, a creature unlike anything in Earth's biological record pulsed with internal light. It resembled a jellyfish crossed with a centipede, its translucent body housing organs that glowed with bioluminescence. Where eyes should be, it had only sensory pits that seemed to track her movement. "Containment units," Quan said, examining a nearby console. "These aren't Vrexians." A weak voice called from across the chamber. "They are the Void Weavers." Rise spun, weapon raised, to find a wounded Vrexian dragging itself from behind an overturned control station. Blue-black fluid leaked from multiple wounds in its exoskeleton. "What are Void Weavers?" Rise demanded, approaching carefully. "Parasites," the Vrexian rasped. "They arrived on a derelict ship that drifted into our space 3 of your Earth years ago. We thought it was abandoned technology we could salvage. Instead, we found them." The alien gestured weakly at the pods. "They infect hosts, control minds, bend wills. Once attached, they cannot be removed without killing the host. We contained those we could capture, studied them, tried to find a way to free our infected people." "What does this have to do with attacking our diplomatic vessel?" Rise asked, though she was beginning to see the terrible picture forming. "Your ambassador Chen, his specific request to visit our homeworld, the unusual approach vector, the insistence on bringing their own shuttle to the surface." The Vrexian's breathing grew labored. "We intercepted communications. Quantum encryptions we should not have been able to break suddenly became transparent to us. Your ship was compromised. All of them. Infected." "That's impossible," Jackson protested. "The Olive Branch underwent full decontamination and inspection before departure. They never encountered any alien biological agents." "The Void Weavers have been spreading," the dying Vrexian said. "Not just in our space. They are patient, subtle. By the time we realized what your diplomatic vessel carried, it was already approaching our most populated world." Rais felt ice in her veins. "You're saying our diplomats were controlled by these parasites?" "Not all. Perhaps only one at first. But enough. We had no choice. If they had reached our homeworld." The Vrexian's voice faded. "We need to get this information back to Earth," Quan said urgently. "If these things have already infiltrated humanity." An alarm blared throughout the station, cutting her off. Rais's comm unit activated automatically. "Commander." It was Lieutenant Maslov from the Concordia. "Multiple contacts just appeared in system. They're not Phyrexian. Configuration unknown. Reyes turned to the wounded alien. Are they yours? Reinforcements. The Phyrexian's compound eyes dimmed. No, they have come. The true invasion begins. Reyes raced back to the command center with her team, arriving just as Station Commander Vextor was bringing the main view screen online. The image showed a dozen vessels surrounding the human fleet, ships unlike any Reyes had seen. They were asymmetrical, almost organic in appearance, with surfaces that seemed to pulse and shift like living tissue. What are we looking at? She demanded. The Void Weaver's true forms, Vextor replied. Or rather, the ships they grow from the minds and bodies of those they've taken. Those ships, they're made from people, from many species, harvested, transformed. We've been fighting them in secret for 3 years, trying to contain the infection before it spread to other civilizations. The Phyrexian turned its compound eyes to Reyes. We failed. On the view screen, the alien vessels began to move, surrounding the human fleet. Concordia, this is Reyes. Do not, repeat, do not allow those ships to board or attach to any coalition vessel. She turned to Vextor. How do we fight them? Conventional weapons work, but they adapt quickly. Nuclear strikes are effective, but must completely destroy the target. No fragments can remain viable. The Phyrexian moved to a console. I can transmit everything we know about their weaknesses. Do it, Reyes ordered. She opened a channel to the fleet. All vessels, this is Commander Reyes. The Phyrexians are not our true enemy. We face a parasitic species called the Void Weavers. They took control of the Olive Branch and its crew. The Phyrexians destroy our diplomatic vessel to prevent a wider infiltration. There was a moment of stunned silence before Admiral Zhang's voice came through. You're certain of this, Commander? I've seen them, Admiral. I'm standing in a containment facility filled with these creatures. And there are more, in ships surrounding our fleet right now. The Phyrexian data is coming through, confirmed the Concordia's science officer. It correlates with anomalies we detected in the Olive Branch's final transmission, but dismissed as interference. On the view screen, the first shots were fired, not between humans and Phyrexians, but between both fleets and the newcomers. The Void Weaver ships moved with unnatural coordination, their hulls absorbing energy weapons with minimal damage. We need to coordinate with the Phyrexians, Rey said. Combine what they know with our firepower. For the next hour, the battle raged. Human vessels fought alongside Phyrexian ships that arrived as reinforcements, sharing tactical data and covering each other's blind spots. The parasites' vessels were individually powerful, but relied on overwhelming their opponents through sheer biological horror rather than tactical sophistication. It was Vextor who suggested the turning point strategy. Their ships communicate through quantum entanglement, instantaneous but vulnerable to disruption. Your vessels carry quantum communication disruptors for electronic warfare. We can reconfigure them to match the Weaver's frequency, Reyes realized. Cut off their coordination. The plan worked. Once isolated from each other, the parasite ships became disorganized, attacking blindly or retreating into defensible formations rather than pressing their advantage. The combined human-Phyrexian fleet methodically destroyed them one by one, careful to vaporize all remains. When the last enemy ship exploded in nuclear fire, a tense silence fell across the command center. Reyes looked at Vextor, centuries of human diplomatic tradition warring with the trauma of recent events. You should have told us, she said finally, about the threat, about your suspicions. Would you have believed us? The Phyrexian asked. Or would you have seen it as a pretext to avoid diplomatic contact? We hoped to solve the problem ourselves. We were wrong. Admiral Zhang's hologram appeared in the command center. Commander Reyes, the President is requesting your presence at an emergency council. The Phyrexian High Command has agreed to send representatives as well. He paused, his expression grave. We need to determine how far this infiltration has spread. 2 days later, Alina Reyes stood in the council chamber on Luna Base, watching as human and Vrexian leaders signed the Emergency Cooperative Defense Pact. The first joint scientific teams were already analyzing the captured parasites, developing detection methods and potential countermeasures. President Alvarez approached Reyes after the ceremony. "History will remember you, Commander. Your willingness to look beyond the obvious, to question even when vengeance seemed justified. You may have saved not just humanity, but multiple species." Reyes thought of the Olive Branch and its crew, victims rather than martyrs. "We almost started a war with the wrong enemy, Madam President." "Yes, and that should humble us." Alvarez gazed out at the Earth, visible through the chamber's dome. "We thought ourselves prepared for the dangers of space, hostile civilizations, natural disasters, resource conflicts. But there are threats we never imagined. Subtle, patient, willing to turn us against each other first. The Vrexians estimate the Void Weavers have been spreading for decades, maybe centuries," Reyes said. "Infiltrating one civilization, using it to access others. We'd found evidence of their presence in at least 3 other species' territories." "Then we have work to do," the President replied. "Together." As the council dispersed, Reyes found herself standing beside Vextor. The Vrexian commander seemed smaller somehow, the weight of recent events evident in the subdued colors of its exoskeleton. "Your people would have been justified in destroying us," Vextor said quietly. "After what we did to your diplomatic vessel." "We almost did," Reyes admitted. "But that's the thing about humans, Commander. We can be terrible in our wrath, but we're also capable of understanding, of forgiveness when it's earned. And have we earned it?" Reyes considered the question carefully. "You made a terrible choice to save your people. We would have done the same to protect Earth. The difference is, now we face this threat together." In the days that followed, joint human-Vrexian fleets began methodical sweeps of neighboring systems, searching for signs of the parasites. Research teams worked around the clock developing scanners that could detect the subtle neural patterns of infected hosts. The war had changed before it truly began. Not a conflict between civilizations, but a united front against an enemy that turned mind against mind. And aboard the Concordia, now flagship of the combined fleet, Commander Elena Reyes reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Void Weavers had been found in 3 more systems, always hiding, always preparing. But now they faced species that refused to be turned against each other, that recognized the true enemy wasn't the alien across the negotiating table, but the influence that sought to prevent that table from ever being approached in peace. "Ready for jump, Commander," announced Lieutenant Keller. Reyes nodded, looking at the bridge crew, humans and Vrexians working side by side. "Take us out." The Concordia slipped into the darkness between stars, carrying the combined knowledge and determination of 2 civilizations that had nearly destroyed each other. The true war, the one worth fighting, had just begun.